I kind of like Antifa. You know why?
The great debate. If there's anything I live for, and to be out there, this is it. This is great. It was apparently a debate contest challenge in town. So there were all these different debate teams roaming around. And these young men were part of it. And Patrick is the man I'm speaking to here. I really applaud Patrick, aside from his some of his views, which I attribute to his youth. But what I really applaud about him is his ability, his honesty to go ahead and admit that when he doesn't know something, he admits that. If he's uninformed on something, he'll say that he doesn't have that information, or he doesn't is as well schooled in that. That's admirable. It's very admirable, and that's what I attribute a lot of his, let's say, ignorance. And ignorance can be cured, stupidity can't. He's not stupid. So I have a lot of faith that once Patrick gets the information, that he might start rethinking some of his positions. He's an avid Bernie supporter. There's a lot of flaws with Bernie, and one we bring up in here is that I really hit on is like global warming, which is just a mechanism that the communists are using for wealth distribution. I just hope that Patrick has the strength to know, because there's an old adage, it's easier to fool someone than convince them that they've been fooled. And when someone has a hardcore position on things like global warming, they tend to rely on scientists. Patrick goes ahead and has a very healthy, disrespect for politicians. He's very skeptical of them, but doesn't seem to carry over to scientists. Scientists are human too, so they can be corrupted. I mean, for a long time, scientists said the Earth was flat. For a long time, there were scientists that said, "Oh, smoking cigarettes is okay." Scientists, like everybody else, can be corrupted. If you come out of college with, $250,000 debt, with a climatology degree, and there's only so many weathermen out there, and so many jobs. So, someone comes along and says, "Hey, I'll pay off your debt. Just write this paper, make sure it, bodes well with our view." Yeah, well, you might be tempted to go ahead and write that paper. So anyway, I hope Patrick, I know you'll be watching this. I hope he did contact me via email, and I sent him some information to look up. I hope you do look it up. I would like to get your feedback on that, and let me know what you think, because I think Patrick has a good head on his shoulders, and if he just is exposed to the right facts, can go a long way and further in the cause, because he is a caring person. That's one of the things about youth that attracts him to Bernie and the whole socialist cause, because it's all about feelings. It's not so much about intellect. So it feeds off of that. So this is a long video. I don't want to get too much into the description before it it goes on, but it's well worth the time to go through and listen to this. Great thing about it is, you don't have to listen to it all at once. You can listen in increments if you'd like. And let me know what you think. If you like what I'm doing out there, trying to educate and spread the knowledge, then good. Help me out. Hit the like button and the share button and contribute. All right, let's get to it, and I'll see you on the flip side.
School trip?
We had a debate tournament over at Newman High School.
How'd you do?
My partner and I, we got to quarterfinals.
Very good. What do you guys debate mostly? What do you think?
Well, you get topics by the month, and we're debating whether or not the U.S. government's use of offensive cyber operations, do the benefits outweigh the harms? Yeah.
Very good subject.
It's fun.
Very good subject. Matter of fact, this book right here I was just reading has a lot to do with the interactions of the technology, the 5G, how this is using, basically kind of interacting with our own human genome and working to propaganda, with the propaganda being used upon us. So indeed. So I'm glad to see you guys are into that.
And probably like next month's too is about whether or not we should lift sanctions on Venezuela, which is always fun to talk about. Venezuela's fun.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about that? If what side would you take?
I don't like sanctioning any country so as to try to coerce how they operate, unless they pose a genuine threat to the U.S. Venezuela, so far as I see it, didn't pose a threat to us.
Very good. Very good. I like your outtake. I figured, I'm pretty much with the founding fathers of that, if it isn't going to affect our borders.
Yeah, no need to intervene. And all you're doing is causing more problems.
Stay out of foreign entanglements, period.
That's right.
Let them figure it out. Let's us live by example, and then they can go ahead and, hey, they're doing a pretty good job. Why don't we just find out? Let's do what they're doing.
Yeah.
They'll
learn eventually. Let them make their own mistakes.
The U.S. acts too much like the world's police.
Indeed. But that a lot of that has to go into the globalization, how corporations and governments try to interact with the corporations to go ahead and form.
Multinational corporations, a U.S. product. That didn't exist until the 60s. U.S. corporations really did start to come up and actually intervene in other countries' affairs so as to generate the profits they needed.
I can't think of any company that was foreign that came to us.
You got plenty of them. It's just the fact that concept is an American concept.
Now, do you guys delve into the deep state, into the hidden hands, the secret and semi-secret societies behind the government?
I'm not sure that I buy into the whole, there's some organization there. What I buy into is, whatever's profitable is going to be chased, and it's done through the money's first of all used to buy politicians so you can get them what to do what you need to do. But in the long run, I don't think there's some Illuminati, so to speak. I think it's just the stereotype of the Wall Street banker buying the Clintons so that they can get them to do what they need. That's how I view it. It's just it's in search of profit, but there's no organization in particular running it.
I would beg to differ in the sense that I would look at when you look at the Club of Rome or the Knights Templar.
See, I don't know about those.
Get into this, because then you're looking at, or even read a book like The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and you check. It's just look at how many of our presidents alone are all connected to the royalty that came out of the bloodlines of the Illuminati. I think it's 27 of our presidents connected to one guy, one bloodline.
Yeah.
Obama and Cheney are cousins. Blood cousins.
Doesn't surprise.
So, we have this connection, and I'm reading this book now. here by David Icke, and it gets deep into a lot of the secret societies. So I would look into a lot of what's behind our governments alone and where the connections are, because you can find the same names and the same families connected all together.
And once again, it's not just political. I think you move outside the political system and you look at who are the wealthy people. And who are the ones that buy the politicians that run the system.
Indeed.
A lot of them are related too. I was reading the history of the United States, and essentially, mid-1800s, and into the 1860s, people started to kill their landlords and rise up, and even even the National Guard would come in and initially try to break up these riots, and then a lot of them actually ended up handing their weapons to the people rioting because they ended up supporting the cause. And it's because the landlords, let's say New England landlords, they'd all intermarry and interlock so that they could control one massive area. And you ended up, with a place like New York, you had a tenth of the population owning about 90% of the land.
Yep. Thank you. You're right on tune. There's a book I recently read I would love you to go ahead and read, because it's going to help you out in your debates and everything else. And I hope it's not prophetic. It's easy enough to remember. Mm-hmm. The Killing of Uncle Sam.
Okay.
And it really connects the dots on the people behind the scenes who are kind of tying everything together and putting everything together. Cecil Rhodes and all of that comes out of England, and how they took over Africa and they set up different secret societies that kind of controlled the politicians behind the back. And they would even, you look at things like Skull and Bones, right? And look how many people have come out of Skull and Bones that has CEOs, editors, presidents, and the numbers are insane, because when you figure they only take 15 new members a year, but you wind up that all of the heads of all the networks are Skull and Bones people. How does that work out?
I just have a question, because you seem to be a Trump supporter, but isn't he kind of part of the problem? I mean, most of his cabinet's made up of these really wealthy, interconnected. I mean, his secretary and leader of the EPA is Rick Perry, who's well known to be well involved in the oil industry. Secretary of the Energy Department is a former coal lobbyist. Yeah. You've got a lot of you have the swamp. I mean, he says he's going to drain the swamp, but the swamp is in his administration. The swamp is the administration.
Yeah, good, very good, very perceptive, very good question. And I would go back to the fact that, the powers that be, or the swamp that we're talking about, the deep state, as it were, has really been in control for several hundred years, but especially since the Federal Reserve took over this country 113 years ago.
Remember who voted to audit the Federal Reserve in 2008 was who? Ron Paul and Bernie, I think, were the only two.
Yeah, thank you. And what happened there? Of course, nothing much. They did a cursory review, audit, but it wasn't really deep enough to go into anything, to destroy anything. The deep state is so deep that even as a good person, if you were to, by some anomaly, like he was really an anomaly, got in, right? You're still going to be surrounded so deep with, you can't really function without having some of these people around you. You can't just come in with a whole new group of people.
I still question Trump's motives, because remember when he passed in 2017 or 2018 his tax reform, when he got it through, he was down at Mar-a-Lago giving us opening words when he figured out his pass to a group of very wealthy people, a private meeting, is you're all about to get a hell of a lot richer. Which makes you question his motives. Not only that, but remember who he donated to more than any other politician that I know was Hillary and Bill. He's part of the problem, isn't he? I see the solution to, I guess, wealth running the nation isn't going to be found in Trump. I think Trump's supporters, I think, are really well-meaning people. Most of them that I know are. They're not just here so we can build a wall and kick out immigrants. That's not the end goal. The end goal is to fix what causes the problems. I know that. But I think it ends up being misguided when you put the support behind Trump. because I don't see anything changing. In fact, his tax bill just let the wealthy get more powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, the effects of his tax bill are already taking over. I mean, you see the rich only got they got a lot richer.
Yeah, but who also creates the wealth? I mean, I understand that it flows down. I've also spoken to a lot of businessmen out here that say because of his release of the regulation, because of him being able to allow them tax breaks, they've been able to expand, they're hiring more people, and that shows in the unemployment numbers we have, so it does spread down. You know, it does spread out. And again, you cannot fix the problem. I like this, believe me. If you gave it up to me, I'd have the revolution tomorrow.
Yeah,
I would. I'd march in Washington with arms and rope in one hand and a gun in the other. But that's why I'm not in charge. So you've got to basically kind of do this thing in increments. The fact that he is at least drawing out the lies of the media, drawing up and even bringing up the deep state. This wasn't even in the lexicon, remember, 10 years ago. Now we're actually talking about...
Yeah, we got two people. We got Trump and Bernie. The ones who's really...
Yeah, but Bernie still said socialism is not...
Well, he's not an actual socialist.
Yeah,
I mean,
beg to differ on that one.
I mean, me and you both know the definition of socialism is the workers owning the means of production. That's what socialism is by definition.
Name one country where socialism is work.
Well, name one country that's allowed the workers to actually seize the means of production.
But that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying you can't give me one.
Name one country that has actually worked.
I'm saying that no country has been an actual socialist country. But secondly, I'm saying Bernie's not a socialist. Democratic socialism is just the name of the new left that seems to be emerging. Right. And what it does is it models it after, well, not necessarily models it after, but attempts to recreate a lot of the success we've seen in these Scandinavian countries that have free markets that are very lively. But why they have very lively free markets is because people are able to leave their jobs knowing that they're not going to lose their homes because of an unexpected medical bill, or that they can get the education they need without burying themselves in debt.
But then you look at the tax rate there, and once you tax somebody so much, where's the level of production going to go?
Well, that's kind of a reference to the Laffer curve, which I've never seen any proof of that at all. Because
you can see it underneath. You can see it underneath what happened under 8 years when the businesses were taxed exponentially. Okay, any time
8 years of who? Of what? When?
Of the wealthy. They took their work.
I'm saying when were these 8 years?
Where you look underneath Obama.
Okay.
And under 6 years of House rule with Democrats. Okay?
Yeah.
When they just exponentially started taxing people, they took those businesses and went out of state. Look at what's happened with Amazon. Right?
Most multinational corporations aren't paying taxes.
No, well, but the whole thing is that who's ever created a job?
Who creates jobs?
Who creates jobs?
What's your opinion?
Is it the poor guy down the street that's created a job, or the wealthy man down the street?
Both. Because the wealthy guy needs the poor guy. See, in order for the business to work, you need both sides of it. I don't like the idea that you just attribute all the credit to the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur sure puts the money into it, but the actual work is done by the worker. You need both.
Okay, but without that,
so currently we're overvaluing the CEOs and the entrepreneurs.
Oh no! But the whole thing is that once you take away that level, if you tax them, like AOC wants to go to 90%, okay?
Bernie doesn't. Just to let you know.
I can't even believe that.
Bernie will never make it if he's ever elected. He won't.
I know.
He won't live.
That ain't over.
But here's the thing.
And how come he?
They covered it up so fast. That,
how come he produced?
Not in a conventional way of covering up where you just kill everybody involved, but in a way of covering up where you just
because he pays all his taxes, yet he still wants to increase those taxes and pay more. He still wants to give back.
My question is, though, no. He says we want to share.
Yeah.
He's got 3 mansions.
You like Tucker Carlson?
How did he become a multi-millionaire?
That man is awesome.
By writing books and selling.
Writing a book that really didn't sell. Okay, like Hillary's was a tanky, but she got what?
Yeah.
$10 million to write a memoir?
Are you trying to say that Bernie's made money off of corruption?
No, I'm just saying that he's made money. He's the only job he ever had has been in public service.
He's dedicated his life to trying to help people. And if you look at him, Mayor of Burlington, remember he served from 1980 to 1988, which is funny because it's the same year as Reagan was.
It's kind of like Mark Garofalo, okay? The guy from The Hulk and everything. Really loves socialism, yet he makes $30 million. His net worth is $30 million.
I don't care about what
I'm just saying. I'm showing the hypocrisy of it. Is these people, Why is not AOC turning around and taking her $175,000 she's gaining from Congress and sharing the wealth?
Well, because that's actually the objective, is that private charity is no longer necessary to take care of people who are suffering. When you got 1 in 6 children in America who go hungry every single night, and that's the highest childhood poverty rate of any.
Show me the 1 in 6 right here.
Walk around New Orleans, you tell them, count the homeless people, okay? We obviously have
I'm from Colorado. We've got a ton in Boulder, liberal city, Denver, liberal city.
I know, that's just the nature of urban areas. If you break it down by state, the most poor states are the most conservative states. Look at Mississippi, look at Louisiana, look at Alabama,
and the most
look at
productive
Georgia.
states, though, are conservative states. Florida,
well, California is the 3rd largest economy in the world.
And they're bankrupt.
It doesn't matter. The corporations are doing very well.
You know
why they're bankrupt? It's because the corporations that are in that state refuse to actually pay the taxes. Because what the governments do is they want the headquarters in their cities and their states, so they offer them as many tax deductions and as many subsidies as possible.
Right.
So what is that? The term for it is corporate welfare. I think one of the best examples is Walmart.
But where do those companies go if you tax them to death? They go out of the country. We've seen it left and right. Look at Nike. Where does Nike make the most of their products?
So the reason that these...
No, where does Nike make...
I know, China. But the reason these companies go to other countries is because of trade deals like NAFTA and all the trade deals that Bernie has actually opposed throughout his political career.
They go to other countries because they're getting taxed too much here. So by offering them tax incentives, they bring the jobs back. That's why we have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years.
We have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years because if you look at the job quality index, we're creating double the amount of low-quality short-term jobs than we are high-quality.
There's over 1.5 million jobs that there's not workers for.
1.5 million jobs that are very low quality and short-term.
Is a job a job?
A job's a job. You're correct. Okay. But when the minimum wage is $7.25, and most workers, remember, 74% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck.
What about? Okay, so let's say what is $20 a living wage?
No, $15. $15.
Okay,
and if you look
so
at the
did
cities,
you look at what happened to Seattle when they raised it to 15?
You can use Seattle.
Did you look at Seattle when they raised it to 15?
I haven't looked up Seattle.
Exactly. So what happened in Seattle, and I worked there a lot. I'm an insurance investigator. Okay. A lot of companies shut doors. Okay. A lot of companies fired people because they couldn't afford to pay the $15 per hour to all their employees. So they had to take a select few. So the employment rate and homeless rate in Seattle shot up. In fact, so bad that now people that were liberals for a long time, there's a mass movement in Seattle to overthrow the city government by liberals because they don't like where it's going. Okay. Because they've seen the $15 minimum wage. If a burger right here is $10, where we just ate our lunch, okay?
Yeah, and then you raise the minimum wage.
You raise it, it's going to raise that price. Yeah. So what happens is that people either stop going there or they've got to keep them, not raise it exponentially to cover the 15, or do they fire people?
The funny thing is, I read the opposite happen in New York. After we raised the minimum wage to $15 there, we've actually seen hiring among restaurant industry increase.
Okay, but do you see New York and California, the two are the number 1 and 2 states of people leaving the state?
Well, that's just because of high tax rates in the state. They know
high tax rate, exactly. Why would you stay there? Why wouldn't you live in New York City?
If you make it universal and it's the federal tax rate, people aren't just going to leave. And also, if you look at Bernie's plan...
misery if you make it universal.
If there was a flat tax nationwide, that'd be fine. But when you look at it like this,
the problem with them is when you have, I think it was 96% of all newly generated income in 2016 went to 1/10 of 1% of the population. That's obviously problematic, and I don't see how a flat tax would solve it. And when you have the average CEO being paid 270 times as much as the lowest paid employee, the point is we're overvaluing the people at the top. And actually, we've seen their wealth since Reagan.
So where'd you buy the jacket?
I bought the jacket at some outlet mall near Atlanta.
Outlet mall. So you supported some sort of chain system.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're part of the problem, right?
I'm part of the problem, but how am I going to escape that unless we systematically make changes?
But why do we systematically make changes? We have the most productive
I don't care.
Economy
Our
in the world.
Our people aren't doing well. Our people aren't. We can be as productive as we like.
Our people are
but
doing
if you look
great.
at,
It's the ones that aren't willing to get off their ass.
But I can show you the chart. Since 1975, we've seen productivity skyrocket. Wages, adjusted for inflation, haven't changed.
Can I tell you, Jack, something here that I talk to a lot of businessmen out here. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've found over and over and over and over again, talking to them, especially in the trades, what I wind up hearing over and over again.
Yes.
is that they're, especially in the trade businesses, right, that we've bred several generations or a generation of people that are they're not willing to work. I mean, their money's there. They come in, the money's good. I mean, the money's good, but they don't want to work. They play on their cell phones for a couple of weeks, want to get paid top dollar, and do what the supervisor does, and then they leave. I mean, I hear this over and over again.
Let me put it this way. As an insurance investigator and inspector, okay, I was in Baltimore working this past year, right in Cummings area. You take the most dilapidated building you're watching here, 90% of those homes. That is a cool paperclip. 90% of those homes were like that. Right? I was inspecting homes that the people were buying, right? That the roofs were cracked.
Do you have any small stickers?
That was in Cummings district.
Like, I'll put some of those on my phone.
Spoke to so many different people. So many gang members all over the place. I was accosted by 5 of them while I was walking up to a building that I could not believe people were even trying to live in, let alone buy, okay? And that's what's happening in Cummings district.
Well, Cummings was an establishment Democrat. They're do-nothing politicians.
Right, no, on both sides of the aisle.
The majority of the people in Congress are do-nothing politicians.
Right, and to go back to your one, if you truly want to know the definition of socialism, actually communism, it's Christianity, okay? Because Christ, the body worked as whole, okay? That no one was more important. We're all supposed to work together. But if you go into the Bible also, Christ even said, let those who will not work go hungry. Meaning those who will not work to serve other people go hungry. Go back and research the true meaning of when this country was first started with Roanoke Island. Okay? When they first came here.
I've read a lot about that.
Okay, so what happened when they first came here? It was socialism. Everybody was supposed to farm together, share food together.
That's not necessarily socialism, but that is a collective style of living.
Because they were all supposed to share in the works of everybody else, okay? What happened is they saw the colony collapsing. They saw people going out and not working yet because they would go down to the market and get their own food because that's how it was. Until he turned it around to be basically a consumption commodity. Basically the economy we have now. They buy and trade. They buy and sell. Then you got this patch of land, whatever you grew on it was yours to sell, to do whatever with. That's when it started growing.
But guess what happened under that system?
What?
Is you had
we have the greatest country in the history of the world?
We have a country in which the vast majority of the wealth is owned by a very small amount of people.
So what?
You just jealous?
So what
I'm not jealous.
What did they do?
Why does it matter?
Why does it matter? Because if we look at the structure of the system itself, it is set up to where that happens. It's happened.
Actually, anybody can come here and be successful.
That's not true.
It is true.
If you look at your chances, if you're born into the bottom 20%, your chances of
I was born in the bottom 20%.
And I'm saying now for current generations, your chances of staying there are higher and increasing compared to the generations of yourself and yourself. In fact, your generation was very well off. Y'all were looking to do a lot better than your parents. My generation is the first ever to be expected to have a lower standard of living than my parents.
Can I ask why people risk their lives to get into this country?
So bad.
You don't see a whole bunch of people trying to get in.
Because Central America is full of drug wars, and they don't know how to solve the problem.
Where do you think all the drugs go?
The drugs go south, north, wherever they can go. They want to sell as many as they can. Okay.
So what's the difference? There's drugs here, there's drugs there.
I'm going to get off with my son, but hey, buddy.
I love talking.
We'll agree to disagree, but Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, and I don't mean it sarcastically, but Merry Christmas.
I don't mean it. I enjoy these conversations.
Hillary Clinton.
Oh, thank you.
Good for any crime in the world.
Merry Christmas. 2020, baby.
I enjoy
this.
It's going to be a landslide. Hey, it's a lot better to talk to people you disagree with.
But it's also better to have a discussion instead of an argument. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And I can't tell how many times that I've had somebody polar opposite me. It always comes when we go back and forth, and it always comes down to name calling on their side or screaming or yelling. But having a discussion like we're having is what we need to have both in Congress and in the country.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Amen.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I'm going to call myself.
Hey, do you care if I get another one of those get out of jail free cards?
No.
I got one 2 years ago, and
Dang.
I want another one just in case.
You got a dedicated support base, man.
That is fine.
Gotta have them just in case.
Huh?
Gotta have them just in case.
Yeah. Actually, I gave one to some girl from Arkansas. 2 months later, she came back. Right, she was all good. She runs up. She goes, "I got stopped by a roadblock. I didn't have my license on me, and I showed the cop this." He laughed so much. He said, "Get out of here."
Yeah, I'm from Ohio.
It worked.
All right, we're good. Good to see you again.
Yeah. probably don't remember me at all.
Yeah, well,
You see a million people.
yeah, I do. Check out. Have you checked out my YouTube
I'm
channel at all? Oh, you're a subscriber?
Yep.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Very good. Hey, Dale, this your dad?
Yeah, that's my dad.
All right. Raise your children well, right?
I've
Got
enjoyed
ganged up
talking
on for a second.
What's that?
Ganged up on for a second there.
I know, but I like it. I'm the odd one out in Georgia too. There's not a lot of, a lot of my friends.
You ought to try my job if you want to try odd one out. Now I'm watching a war against the First Amendment coming from the left.
It comes from both sides.
I don't
think it
see
comes from both
Antifa on the right. I don't see anything that equivalent to Antifa.
Well, here's the thing. I support.
I don't see 800 liberal sites being taken off of the internet. I don't see the big tech giants taking down anybody
big
that
tech
says
giants-
anything
You
on
know
the
Steven
liberal.
Crowder?
Oh yeah,
Facebook.
big
That's
time.
messed
Love it.
Big tech giants, they don't appeal to the left or the right. They appeal to you. They were going to, first of all, they take money from whoever gives it to them. They don't care if it's true or false. In fact,
I would big time beg to differ.
no. If you just look at how it's operating, I mean, it likes to be spun by either side. The left says that they have a bias towards the right, and the right says they have a bias towards the left.
Now you would have to speak to some of the whistleblowers that have come out recently that work for Google, work for Facebook.
Oh yeah, they say there's a conservative bias. I know that because within the corporations, they're California people. They are liberal, but how they program them is so that you, a conservative, you're going to see conservative information, and me, well, I'm pretty far left. I'm going to see left-wing information. That's how they do it. They want you to stay in your bubble. Now, that means that at the end of the day, the code is there not to advance one agenda or the other, but to advance your agenda, to make sure that you feel safe and secure, and to make sure that you keep
They
consuming.
do put us in our ghettos in there, and as I said, that's you're right in that sense, and I will agree with you there. But more and more, they are going to go ahead and remember, it's all about control. The powers that be need control.
They're not going to let go of it. We got to take it
They
from them.
need control. Here's another book I highly recommend if I haven't already shown this to you. But
Yeah,
this
we
right,
spoke about this.
Yeah, this right here, you want to get yourself a copy. Take a picture of that and get yourself a copy because it really goes into how they really want to take control of our minds. It really works deep into it. And they don't want us to be big debating like this. They don't want us to have these kind of
I
conversations.
don't think they need to take control of our minds. I think the propaganda that's not necessarily conservative or liberal, how you usually look at it, it's just neoliberal, which is center-right. That's all it ever is. It's focused on the money. That's the ideology, this invisible ideology. We've had a very conservative era.
Well,
Reagan.
I would beg to differ from that because now you're looking at a lot of corporations to go get woke and go broke. They're going far left, even though they're losing money. They're losing.
They're not going far left. The other day, I saw
CNN is. When you look at, let's say, some of the media networks that have totally sold out to the left, their viewership is plummeting, but they don't stop.
But the thing is, who do they hate? They hate Bernie. They leave him out of polls. When he does do well in polls, the headline, let's say Bernie's in second place, the headline will say Biden first, Warren third. They skip over Bernie. Mainstream media doesn't like him. Remember who's protecting your interest, and remember who protects their interest. All they're doing, if you look at CNN's ad time, it's bought by pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies, the ones that want to make sure Bernie doesn't win. I would say that Bernie he's pulled in with all the other Democrats. He's not at all like them. He is very much one to take power.
You don't feel burned when, because I'll give you this. When
I'm listening.
In 16, he was winning. I mean, if all things being fair, he should have been the nominee.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And on top of that, he also.
But when it came time for the convention,
not telling the media, he took weeks
and
to tell the public that he was.
He just folded like a cheap
Well, here's
lawn chair, and came out and said, "I know I told you not to support her because she's a crook, but we all have to get behind her now."
I know. Here's why I did that. Bernie, I see him as very genuine. Throughout all of his time as a politician, he hasn't backed down. He hasn't given in.
He certainly backed down
and
then.
He hasn't changed. Now, at that point, he had two choices.
He didn't notify the public
It was endorse, well, he had three, really. It was endorse Hillary, endorse Trump, or endorse nobody. Now, I think Bernie saw Trump as a genuine threat to, first of all, American way of life, and not American way of life, but America standing on the global stage, the American working people.
Was he right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you saw the video of world leaders literally making fun of Trump.
Who gives a shit about the world leaders? They're a part of the problem. You think I give a crap about the damn world leaders?
I'm with
world leaders, to me, are part of the whole problem.
I know. I'm with you on that one. The establishment is now globalized, but that doesn't mean that we can have world leaders making fun of ours. We have to maintain those relationships economically.
Then how did Boris Yeltsin just win? I mean, overwhelmingly, you looked at the people rise up and reject the entire liberal tone over there and say, excuse me, we voted for Brexit 3.5 years ago. You guys have been rejecting us and trying to shove this liberal bullshit down our throat, and we're going to go right now, screw you.
Yeah, although there was a massive propaganda campaign against Jeremy Corbyn, I'll say that. And because BBC, remember, Jeremy Corbyn's a lot like Bernie in so far as he's not going to look after the wealthy's interests. So when you look at the British media, who are they going to make sure?
Yeah, but it was globalization that suffered. And again, I go back to back to the thing that's in the lexicon now. That wasn't 10 years ago. And that what he brought up is that it's a fight between nationalism and globalization. Globalization is the dream of every tyrant that has ever lived. That is world government.
Dude, nationalism is literally like how Hitler fueled his support. It's how Mussolini did. It's how Stalin did. It's how Mao did. It's by
that's
saying, remember,
that's like taking.
That's radical nationalism.
Yeah, that's radical nationalism. You're taking like one rotten apple in the barrel, saying that's it. That the whole barrel's rotten.
But I'm responding to what you just said, which is what you said, that globalization is what dictators want. I'm telling you that they're going to use whatever they have at their disposal.
Well,
globalization's not what dictators want.
Well, we could start.
Globalization is what the wealthy.
We could start like nuancing this and slicing it up and saying, they're going to use language in different tones. And as you know, as a debater, there are 28 different ways to say one word.
Absolutely.
So you can use it in a lot of different ways, but in the essence, if you just look at the dictionary. Right, the phrase of what nationalism is.
It's not the radical side of it. I know, but I still think the nationalism that Trump has brought about gave birth to, and I don't like referencing this because it gets referenced all the time, things like the riots we saw in Charlottesville. That to me is very concerning. When you have people marching on the streets with torches saying you can't replace
and I see those being... you understand that another thing that's coming to the lexicon is false flags. A lot of what the deep state will do will use... look, even the Antifa is what? A lot of these guys that you see in the park here are hired Antifa rioters.
I kind of like Antifa. You know why? You know who their only confirmed kills are? Only confirmed kill of any Antifa member are people in ISIS because they also have operations in the Middle East. And remember what Antifa...
But Antifa stops free speech. That is fascism and that's
I don't have an opinion on that yet. I'm struggling to develop one because free speech...
It's pretty easy to develop. When you beat the shit out of somebody to keep them from speaking, that's being fascist.
That's just American politics right now. That's not a left problem, right problem. Both sides do that.
Tell it to the people in Berkeley.
I'm just telling you that both sides are very violent against one another. There's no doubt.
Where on the... Show me the equivalent on the right of Antifa.
Richard Spencer and his neo-Nazi supporters.
you could find them. You could put them in the entire White Aaron Spencer thing in an auditorium, in a school auditorium. They are Antifas in every city. They're here. They organize.
It's easy to do that in urban areas and conservative.
So we're talking about. You're talking about a very small group.
And either
of people.
way, debating the violent radicalists of the left and right isn't indicative of what the ideologies are of the left and right. So the violent people in the Republican Party aren't representative of Trump and his Republican allies, I don't think. And the violent members of Antifa, I don't think are representative of Bernie and his allies. I think these groups operate outside, and that's why they're violent in the streets. It's because they're not going to the polls.
I beg to differ with you there. I think a lot of these groups are being funded and organized by a hidden hand behind the scenes, and
I've heard that a lot. I've never seen any evidence to it. It might be that I just don't know enough about it.
Right.
I don't want to discredit what you're saying because I don't know enough.
Well, you're intelligent enough to go ahead. I would ask you to go ahead and start digging deeper into the hidden societies behind what we're talking about. I mean, look, you're familiar with Bohemia Grove? Okay. Agenda 2030, Agenda 21. Okay.
See, these kind of things are kind of obscure.
All right. Now, Bohemia Grove alone. Let me just bring that up.
Okay.
Bohemia Grove, 1954. Every summer for 2 weeks, a lot of the movers and shakers and elites meet in the Northern California forests, and for 2 weeks, they basically run around having homosexual orgies. They have ceremonies where they get dressed up in like Klan-looking outfits and worship a 40-foot deity called Moloch.
Oh, I have heard of these guys. Yeah, I do know about. I just didn't recognize the name. I know these guys.
Right. Alex Jones snuck in there and filmed the ceremony back, I think, in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And when you see who has attended these ceremonies,
I bet you it's very wealthy people.
Not just wealthy. We're talking about presidents, ex-presidents, former presidents to be.
Well, I don't care about that. I support Bernie. He's not like them. He's not
so again, we're looking at, when you look at the thread between who goes to these events, who belongs to the Skull and Bones, who belongs to the Club of Rome, the CFR. When you look at these behind the scenes, very powerful networks, then you start connecting the dots to what's happening in the surface. You start to see why Bernie may be where he is, and why other power brokers and players are where they are. So I would beg you to go ahead and start researching behind the scenes, get into some of the,
I have a question. Do you associate Bernie with the establishment Democrats and the kind of corporate Democrats?
I don't think any of the players, including Bernie and including Trump, could not be where they are without some backing from these, because I think they're all being played.
I see that, but let's look at Bernie's record. He ran in Burlington once on a third-party ticket. He loses. He runs in 1980, and he wins as an independent. Now he's going into office with Democrats and Republicans running the city government. He works with both sides, and he gets a lot of public housing built. He revolutionizes how the city runs, and he gets the nickname the Red Mayor. He goes from there to
But
Congress,
here's one thing that really, let's say, I'm not, just for the sake of argument.
Okay.
Let's say that Bernie, great, Bernie, all his policies. All right. One policy that really sinks him, for me,
global warming.
The Green New Deal. Oh, it's going to kill us all. Believe me, I helped start the Institute for Environmental Alternatives with Professor Ron Cohn in 1971 in LA. I worked and lived with scientists for 3 years studying this. I have forgotten more about it than most people know. And we, back then, were looking into things and saying, well, things we're finding out are very explosive. And we got to know who's going to infiltrate us and how they're going to try to politically use what we're finding out for their agenda. And what they came up with is global warming.
Here's the thing. I've read the reports from climate scientists, not from Democrats in their speeches. I've read the reports from UN scientists. I bet you don't like the UN, so disregard that. But I've read the reports, and it's a lot worse than people seem to think. I read one report, 500 pages
As a debater, I would ask you to do this.
Okay.
Because I talked to, 3 weeks ago, I talked to Professor David Dilley out here. 40 years climatologist, 40 years. He's worked for everybody, right?
Yeah.
You can look him up, Dilley, D-I-L-L-E-Y. Try to find this. As a debater, try to find this.
Okay.
Try to find a debate between a climatologist who's a skeptic of global warming, climate change, and one of them that's a believer. You will not be able to find it.
Here's the thing.
He goes out of his way to try to get on programs to try to debate the believers in global warming. They will not have him on.
I know.
Because it is so easy to discredit this hoax that they do not want to anybody to listen to a scientist that is a skeptic of global warming.
See, I would disagree with the idea that it is because it is so easy to discredit global warming. I would say it is because there is a genuine fear among establishment leftists, not leftists, liberals, very different, among the establishment liberal part of America, that if you give any fuel to the idea that global warming isn't real, then the argument won't fall apart, but the belief in it will. That's the fear. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't true. What that means is, I genuinely think this: the American people are pretty gullible. You can get them to believe whatever you want, whether it's left or right. If you push it hard enough, you're gonna take it. With global warming, I think it's genuinely one of the issues.
Really? Then what should be the perfect temperature?
I don't know that.
Thank you.
But I can
I ask you this? Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. The big boogeyman, out of all the gases there are in the right, the big boogeyman is what?
Well, the number one greenhouse gas is water vapor, of all things.
Thank you. But what? They don't tax water vapor. What do they tax?
They tax carbon.
Thank you. CO2 is a big boogeyman, right?
It is.
Thank you. Okay, now, with that in mind, let's hold on to that.
I'm holding on to it.
Right. How much CO2 is in the air right now?
I believe that, I don't know how much, but I can tell you that I think it's 3% of all the CO2 in the atmosphere comes from man.
The number is,
let me hear it.
And it has been this way for a long time.
Let me hear it.
0.04%. It's half of 1%. It's been that way for a long, long time. One volcano will spew out more CO2.
That's not true. I've heard that claim and I've read it before. Here's the thing, though.
Again, I told you, I know this when I speak of it.
I see it as a misunderstanding of why climate change is an issue.
But wait, let me ask you this. But of all the gases, because it's a reciprocal gas, remember, we breathe it out. That big green thing up there breathes it in.
There's a natural capacity for it. But we're taking it up out of the ground, and we're adding to what is here. Now, if you imagine a 2-gallon jug,
but we are like a flea fart on the back of a dog when it comes to what we put in.
But if there's a million flea farts on the back of the dog, all it takes is one for the dog to collapse.
It's not going to happen. I'm telling you, the reason they're doing it is control. If that's true, then let me ask you this one question. If absolutely the sea levels are rising because of this global warming, right?
Yes.
Why did Obama just buy a $12 million mansion on the Hamptons?
Because he's a shitty do-nothing politician? Obama's full of shit.
Why do they take jets to the conferences? Why don't we?
First of all, for convenience. Second of all, because like I said, Obama's a do-nothing, full of shit, terrible president. Just like the majority of the ones we've had.
Gore has how many homes? 12?
Never enough when you're that rich, right? That's a
But
problem.
he's
I
what?
don't support Gore. I don't
Mr.
support
Global
Obama.
Warming?
I don't even support Warren. The only leftists that I support are Bernie. I don't know who else, but Bernie's the only one who comes off as genuine to me. The only one with real answers to the problems.
Well, good luck. It was a pleasure talking to you, man.
But I really do have to go.
All right, God bless.
You have a good day.
Who's teaching this guy?
Richard Brack.
All right. Is this your class here? Is this no class?
Contact information on the back.
Pleasure talking. Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work.
So what'd you think of Patrick, huh? Some of those ideas, though, he really needs to be slapped in the head with. Antifa, I'm sorry, pal. Antifa is the brown shirt of the whole leftist movement. They are not good people. And the global warming is, I'm sorry, it's just, it doesn't fly. It doesn't meet the scientific criteria that you'd like. So, at any rate, thanks for stopping by, and hit all those buttons and contribute if you can. And God bless you. Remember to pray for me out there. It's going to get stranger and stranger, and I'll be praying for you. See you on the streets.